Dean Martin was found unconscious in his Beverly Hills home, alone and forgotten by the industry that made him famous. The only person who came to the hospital wasn't family. It was Sammy Davis Jr., and he wasn't leaving until Dean was back on his feet. It was November 15, 1973, and Dean Martin's world had completely collapsed. The man who had once been the coolest cat in Hollywood, the effortless entertainer who made everything look easy, was lying unconscious in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, and nobody seemed to care. His television variety show, which had dominated Saturday nights for 9 years, had been canceled 6 months earlier. The network executive said his ratings were slipping, that audiences were tired of his laid-back style. But everyone in Hollywood knew the real reason. Dean's drinking had become so severe that he could barely get through tapings. His marriage to Jean Martin was over. She'd filed for divorce after years of watching her husband disappear into a bottle, choosing alcohol over his family, his career, and ultimately himself. His children, who had once adored their charming father, now avoided him, tired of broken promises and embarrassing public scenes. The movie roles had dried up. Directors, who had once begged to work with Dean Martin, now wouldn't return his agent's calls. Studio executives whispered that he was unreliable, unprofessional, a liability they couldn't afford. Insurance companies refused to cover films with Dean in them, considering him too great a risk. Even his famous friends had started keeping their distance. Hollywood was a town that worshipped success and abandoned failure with ruthless efficiency. Dean Martin, who had once been the king of cool, was now seen as damaged goods, a cautionary tale about what happened when you let the bottle win. So when Dean's housekeeper, Maria Santos, found him collapsed in his study that November morning, surrounded by empty bottles and pill containers, she faced a terrible question. Who could she call? His ex-wife was in Palm Springs with her new boyfriend. His children were scattered across the country, many of them having given up on their father years ago. His agent had dropped him the previous month. Maria made the only call she could think of. She dialed a number she'd seen Dean call hundreds of times over the years, during good times and increasingly during bad times. A number that always seemed to connect Dean to someone who actually cared. "Mr. Davis," she said, when the familiar voice answered. "This is Maria, Mr. Dean's housekeeper. Something's very wrong. Mr. Dean, he won't wake up. The ambulance is here, and they're taking him to Cedars-Sinai. But nobody else is coming. Nobody else cares anymore." Sammy Davis Jr. was in his dressing room at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas, preparing for his evening show when Maria's call came. He was at the height of his career, headlining the biggest room in Vegas, with movie deals, recording contracts, and more work than he could handle. "I'm on my way," Sammy said immediately. Not even asking for details. "Tell the doctors I'll be there in 2 hours. Tell them not to make any major decisions until I arrive. And Maria, thank you for calling me." Sammy canceled his show that night, something he had never done for personal reasons. He chartered a private plane and was airborne within an hour, leaving behind thousands of disappointed fans and tens of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. None of that mattered. Dean was in trouble, and Dean was his friend. When Sammy arrived at Cedars-Sinai, the scene was even more heartbreaking than he'd imagined. Dean was in intensive care, connected to machines that monitored his vital signs. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. The doctors said he had suffered acute alcohol poisoning combined with an overdose of sleeping pills. They weren't sure if it had been intentional or accidental, but either way, he had come very close to dying. "Where's his family?" Sammy asked Dr. Richardson, the attending physician. "We've tried to contact them, but Dr. Richardson shrugged apologetically. His ex-wife said she'll come if his condition becomes critical. His children, well, most of them haven't responded to our calls." Sammy felt a surge of anger mixed with sadness. This was Dean Martin, one of the most beloved entertainers in America, lying alone in a hospital bed, while the people who should have cared most had written him off. "I'm staying," Sammy said. "I'll be here until he wakes up and gets back on his feet." "Mr. Davis, That could be days, even weeks. He's in very serious condition. Then I'll be here for days or weeks. Dr. Richardson looked puzzled. Are you family? I'm his brother, Sammy said simply. For the next 72 hours, Sammy never left the hospital. He slept in the chair next to Dean's bed, ate hospital cafeteria food, and maintained a vigil that the rest of Hollywood had abandoned. Nurses and doctors were amazed to see one of the biggest stars in entertainment, sitting quietly beside his friend's bed, reading newspapers aloud in case Dean could hear, talking to him about old times, refusing to give up hope. Word began to spread through Hollywood that Sammy Davis Jr. was at Cedars-Sinai, camping out in Dean Martin's room. The response from the entertainment community was telling. Some people were moved by Sammy's loyalty. Others whispered that he was making a mistake, that being associated with Dean's downfall would damage his own career. Frank Sinatra called on the second day. Sammy, what the hell are you doing? Frank's voice was concerned but also frustrated. Dean's finished, Pally. He's been circling the drain for years. You can't save him. I'm not trying to save him, Frank, Sammy replied. I'm just making sure he doesn't die alone. You've got responsibilities. You've got shows to do, commitments to honor. You can't throw your career away for someone who threw his own career away. Frank, if you were lying in this bed, where would you want me to be? There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, Frank said quietly, You're a better man than most of us, Sammy. On the third night, Dean finally opened his eyes. He was groggy, confused, and it took him several minutes to focus on Sammy's face. Sammy, he whispered, his voice barely audible. What are you doing here? Keeping you company, Pally. How are you feeling? Dean tried to sit up, but was too weak. I feel like death warmed over. What happened? You scared the hell out of Maria. And me. You've been unconscious for 3 days. Dean looked around the sterile hospital room, then back at Sammy. 3 days? You've been here for 3 days? I told you I wasn't going anywhere until you were back on your feet. Tears started to form in Dean's eyes. Sammy, I'm finished. My career's over. My family's gone. I'm a joke. You shouldn't be here. It'll hurt your reputation to be seen with me. Sammy pulled his chair closer to the bed. Dean, let me tell you something. I've known you for 20 years. I've seen you at your best, and now I'm seeing you at your worst. You know what? You're still my friend. That doesn't change because you're having a rough patch. A rough patch? Sammy, I nearly killed myself. That's not a rough patch. That's rock bottom. Then we'll climb back up from rock bottom. Together. Dean closed his eyes. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I want to. That's okay. You don't have to know right now. You just have to get healthy. One day at a time. The road back was long and difficult. Dean spent 2 weeks in the hospital, going through withdrawal and beginning therapy for his drinking problem. Sammy visited every day, bringing books, magazines, and most importantly, hope. He arranged for Dean's room to be filled with flowers and cards from fans who still cared, proof that he hadn't been completely forgotten. When Dean was released from the hospital, he had nowhere to go. His Beverly Hills house held too many painful memories, and he couldn't face returning there alone. Sammy made a decision that shocked Hollywood most. He invited Dean to stay at his Malibu home for as long as he needed. You don't have to do this, Sammy, Dean said, as they drove along the Pacific Coast Highway. I'm not your responsibility. You're not my responsibility, Sammy agreed. You're my friend. That's different. Dean lived with Sammy and his wife Altovise for 3 months. It was an unusual arrangement that raised eyebrows throughout the entertainment industry. Some people admired Sammy's loyalty. Others thought he was enabling Dean's problems or making a career-damaging mistake by associating with a fallen star. Sammy didn't care what people thought. He focused on helping Dean rebuild his life, one piece at a time. He made sure Dean attended his AA meetings. He encouraged him to work with a therapist. He helped him reconnect with his children, making phone calls and arranging visits that gradually healed some of the damage that years of drinking had caused. Most importantly, Sammy refused to let Dean give up on his career. When Dean insisted he was finished as a performer, Sammy disagreed. "Dean, you're one of the most talented entertainers I've ever known. You made it look so easy that people forgot how difficult it really is. But the talent is still there. The voice is still there. You just need to remember why you loved doing it in the first place." "People don't want to see me anymore, Sammy. I'm damaged goods. People love comebacks more than they love anything else. But you have to want it. You have to be willing to work for it." Slowly, carefully, Sammy began to orchestrate Dean's return to show business. He started small, arranging for Dean to make a brief appearance at one of his own concerts. The audience's response was electric. They gave Dean a standing ovation before he even opened his mouth. That single appearance led to others. Sammy used his influence to get Dean guest spots on television shows, small parts in movies, opportunities to prove that he was reliable again. Each success built on the last, gradually rebuilding the trust and reputation that Dean had lost. The breakthrough came in 1975, when Sammy convinced a television producer to give Dean a chance at hosting a variety special. The show was a huge success, reminding audiences why they had fallen in love with Dean Martin in the first place. It led to more television work, a recording contract, and eventually a return to regular performing. By 1976, Dean Martin was headlining in Las Vegas again, selling out shows and earning critical acclaim. The comeback was complete, and Hollywood welcomed him back with open arms. But Dean never forgot who had stood by him during his darkest hours. At his first major comeback performance at the Copa Room in Vegas, Dean stopped the show in the middle of his set. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, looking directly at Sammy, who was sitting at a front table, "there's someone in the audience tonight who I need to thank publicly. 2.5 years ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, and everyone had given up on me. Everyone except one man. He stayed with me when he had every reason to walk away. He risked his own career to help save mine. He proved what friendship really means." The audience turned to look at Sammy, who was clearly uncomfortable with the attention. "Sammy Davis Jr. is the best friend a man could have, and I'm here tonight because of him. Sam, stand up so these people can see what a real friend looks like." Sammy stood briefly and waved, but Dean wasn't finished. "I want everyone in this room to know something. If you ever find yourself in trouble, if you ever hit rock bottom, if everyone else abandons you, pray that you have one friend like Sammy Davis Jr., because that's all you need. One real friend can save your life." The audience gave Sammy a standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. After the show, the two men sat in Dean's dressing room, sharing a quiet moment. "You didn't have to do that, Dean," Sammy said. "Yes, I did. People need to know what you did for me. Not just the industry, but regular people. They need to know that real friendship exists, that some people actually care about each other. You would have done the same for me." "I hope so, Sammy. I really hope so. But I'm not sure I would have had the courage. What you did, staying with me when everyone else walked away, risking your reputation, opening your home, that took real courage." Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. remained close friends for the rest of their lives. Dean's comeback lasted until his retirement in the mid-1980s, and he often credited Sammy with saving his life and career. When interviewers asked about his darkest period, Dean was always honest about what Sammy had done for him. "I was finished," Dean would say. "Completely finished." But Sammy refused to accept that. "He saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. He reminded me that I was more than my mistakes, more than my problems. He showed me what unconditional friendship looks like." When Sammy died in 1990, Dean was devastated. At the funeral, he spoke about their friendship and the debt he could never repay. "Sammy saved my life," Dean said simply. "Not just professionally, but literally. When I was ready to give up, he wouldn't let me. When everyone else walked away, he moved closer. That's who Sammy Davis Jr. was. Me's a man who believed in second chances, in redemption, in the power of friendship to overcome anything." Dean's own health began to decline shortly after Sammy's death. Some people said he never quite recovered from losing his closest friend. When Dean died in 1995, his family found a letter he had written to Sammy, but never sent, thanking him once again for the gift of friendship and the chance at a second life. The story of Sammy's loyalty to Dean during his darkest hours became legendary in Hollywood. It was told and retold as an example of what true friendship looks like, and how one person's refusal to give up on another can change everything. Today, when entertainers face their own crises and struggles, the story of Sammy and Dean is often mentioned as proof that real friendship exists in an industry known for its superficial relationships. It remains one of the most powerful examples of loyalty, courage, and the transformative power of refusing to abandon someone when they need you most. If this incredible story of friendship, loyalty, and second chances moved you, make sure to hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who could use a reminder that real friends never give up on each other. Have you ever had a friend stand by you during your darkest moment? Let us know in the comments about the people who refused to abandon you when everyone else walked away. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more amazing stories about the friendships that define us and the courage it takes to truly care for another person.